In a grand hall, a man stands over a fallen woman. A sword is pointed at the back of a woman in blue. The red-eyed man, holding a sword, addresses her as Manhwa. He claims he once cherished her and her talent. He reveals his disdain, accusing her of dabbling in forbidden black magic. He regrets ever keeping her by his side. Manhwa denies the accusation, pleading with Shevlot as a dead man lies nearby. She begs him not to see her as an enemy. His cold, red eyes stare back without emotion. Overwhelmed with despair, she finds she cannot speak. He cruelly interprets her silence as a choice to say nothing. She remembers hoping his imperial power would be different. A final, swift strike fills her vision. A flashback introduces Manhwa, the beloved daughter of a noble house. From a young age, her knowledge and grace were unparalleled. A magical green pendant glows in her hand. She shines brightly at her debutante ball. Though she stood out everywhere, her life was not her own. A shadow of sadness hangs over the celebrated young woman. Her mother coldly admonishes her for foolishly using magic in public. Her mother laments that Manhwa's actions could ruin everything. Ordered to live as if dead, Manhwa never felt her mother's love. Used as a tool by her family, she had no true home. Lost in thought, Manhwa sympathizes with a legendary witch. A maid is confused as Manhwa explains she pities the witch from the kingdom's legend. The tale unfolds of the lonely witch Yahello, who sought power but was slain by a hero. Manhwa wonders if the witch had a lover, but her maid quickly scolds her. Unfazed by the warning, Manhwa muses that perhaps the witch just wanted something small. She imagines the witch's simple wish, a normal life, a loving marriage. She reflects on a life of giving up, unable to be herself. At a dreaded imperial banquet, she first met Shevlot. They shared a magical dance, and for a moment, she felt seen. He promised to stay by her side forever. But that promise was broken. He married another woman. Wah! Amidst the crowd, a sudden realization shocks her. She instinctively clutches her stomach. Later, before his throne, Shevlot coldly asks if she's pregnant. Shocked that he knew, she wonders if he still cares. The words of hope were ones she never dared to speak herself. A blonde woman on his lap remarks that Manhwa's mother must cherish her. Manhwa understands her mother's concern wasn't for her, but for the family. The blonde woman smiles, suggesting to His Majesty that he show mercy. She then reveals her own pregnancy, stunning Manhwa into silence. Shevlot decrees his mercy. Manhwa and her child will live in the detached palace. She wonders why her child is not considered a blessing. The beautiful memories of their past shatter into pieces. With her young child, she escapes through a window. Through despair and struggle, she found a new wish in her child's touch. She gazes down at her baby with pure, unconditional love. As she dies, Manhwa wonders if this was her destiny. Her last thoughts are of her beloved daughter, Liriana. She remembers Liriana as a kind, soft-hearted child. But a child forever stained by her mother's dabbling in black magic. Manhwa regrets not heeding her own mother's warnings about the Empress. With her last breath, she resolves to protect Liriana. A brilliant, blue magic circle erupts around her. Her eyes widen, witnessing the impossible phenomenon. A great white dragon appears, asking if she wishes to live. She stares back, determined, not caring what the beast is. Desperate, she pleads for help to protect her daughter. She reaches out, making contact with the legendary beast. The dragon's cosmic eye glows as it accepts their contract. A memory resurfaces of Liriana wanting to show her something. Manhwa looks on, puzzled by her daughter's excitement. Liriana morbidly presents 2 bloody hearts to her horrified mother. The horrifying dream shatters into flashes of light and darkness. Awakening in bed, she questions if her death was just a dream. She stares in shock at her own small hands. Touching her face, she wonders if she's returned to the past. But the familiar room feels strangely recent. In disbelief, she runs towards a figure covered by a red cloth. But the cloth falls to reveal nothing underneath. She comes to a horrifying realization. She's possessed her daughter's body. Stunned, she stands small and alone in the vast room. She sees her daughter's familiar ebony hair and emerald eyes. It's the face of her own childhood, yet not quite. In the mirror, she confirms she's in Liriana's body. She sits on the bed, adorably stunned by the situation. Panicked, she wonders about her own body and Liriana's soul, recalling Chevlot's betrayal. Then she remembers the beast she met in the darkness. The memory of its vivid purple eyes confirms it was real. A tiny white baby dragon with purple wings appears on the dresser. She recoils, shouting in shock, recognizing the beast from her vision. The little dragon lets out a very big, unbothered yawn. Its massive wing unfurls, startling her with its size. The tiny dragon zips through the air as she begs it to wait. As it flees, its tail shatters a door, while she demands an explanation. She stumbles to a stop, already exhausted from the short chase. Gasp, she realizes Liriana's body is incredibly frail and weak. She recalls comforting her sick daughter, promising a better future. In the memory, a weak Liriana clutches her mother's hand. Despite her illness, Liriana gave her a radiant, hopeful smile. The memory fills Manet's eyes with sorrow and love. In the present, she wonders if Liriana's soul is sleeping within her. She looks down at her small hands filled with a new resolve. Looking around the empty hall, she can't find the little beast. Clutching her chest, she is suddenly struck by a deep chill. She realizes the thin nightgown is inadequate, fearing for Liriana's weak body. Peeking into the hall, she wonders what happened while she was gone. Ouch! Her weak body gives out, and she stumbles to the floor. Two knights approach, discussing the child in the room, and she realizes who they are. Tuck. She falls back in shock as they call her the witch's daughter, though one warns the other to be careful. A knight reaches to grab her, but she defiantly refuses. Realizing Liriana suffers from her stigma, she desperately pleads for him to stop. As he grabs her, she screams for him not to touch Liriana's body. The tiny dragon's wings suddenly flare with a brilliant light. The knights pause, confused by the sudden change in atmosphere. The baby dragon's chest glows, gathering an immense power. It unleashes a torrent of fire, blasting the knights and sending her flying. She watches in shock as the knights panic, their cloaks ablaze. As the beast flies away, she calls for it to wait. Determined, she vows not to let it escape again. She chases it out of the burning palace and into a sunlit garden. Seeing the estate, she realizes Liriana was kept in the royal palace's northern tower. She scans the garden for the beast, spotting two men in the distance. A young man with blonde hair pauses, alerted by a sound. He spots the small child running frantically across the garden lawn. The scene shifts to a peaceful view of the sky. She finally finds the little beast perched beside a garden fountain. Spotting her, the beast perks its ears as she calls out its name. Disheveled from the chase, she declares she has a question for it. Promising not to get closer, she begs it not to run away again. "Take this," she yells, hurling an object towards the fountain. Huh? The object splashes into the water as the dragon watches, confused. Kya! She screams as a geyser erupts from the fountain. Huff! Soaked and exhausted, she crouches by the water's edge. Wondering what she's doing, she notices something clutched in her hand. Her long-lost magic stone necklace gleams from the bottom of the fountain. Retrieving it, she stares in disbelief, recognizing her cherished pendant. The tiny dragon swoops back down from the sky. Her reflection gazes back at her from the pendant's polished surface. As she puzzles over the necklace's appearance, the beast lands gently in her lap. It curls up instantly, falling sound asleep in her arms. She realizes with a start that it wasn't trying to run away. Holding the sleeping creature, she's moved that it fell asleep in her arms. She muses that while it looks like a beast, its actions are different. She realizes the little creature helped her find her magic stone necklace. With the necklace, she wonders if she could use magic, even in Liriana's body. Remembering the cruel label, the witch's daughter, she hesitates, fearing for Liriana's safety. She decides it's best to keep the powerful necklace hidden for now. A boy's voice suddenly calls out, "Liriana?" She turns around, startled by the sudden voice. A well-dressed blonde boy walks toward her, confirming her name. The camera focuses on the intricate golden clasp of his red cravat. She remembers Dagon, a boy she'd seen visiting the palace with his father. Dagon silently observes her from a short distance. He points, asking what she is holding in her arms. Flustered, she holds the squirming beast up, wondering if she should hide it. Dagon's eyes sparkle with excitement as he asks if she's raising a fairy dragon. She's confused by the word fairy, picturing a demonic, shadowy version of the creature. Dagon exclaims how amazing it is to see a rare dragon, and she dryly agrees. He asks how she found it, then notices with concern that her clothes are soaking wet. Without a word, Dagon removes his golden cloak. He gently drapes the cloak over her shoulders, telling her to wear it. He apologizes for not noticing sooner, admitting he was too distracted by the dragon. She smiles warmly, thinking he's a true gentleman who puts her at ease. Dagon looks back at her, his cheeks faintly blushing. He offers to take her back, leading the way through a sunlit garden path. A maid waits for them as they arrive back at the detached palace. Waving from the doorway, Dagon cheerfully bids her farewell until next time. Now in a warm new dress, she quietly waves him goodbye. Phew. She collapses onto her bed in exhaustion, the little beast already fast asleep beside her. Looking at the sleeping dragon, she quietly asks if it can understand her. Cradling the creature, she makes a desperate plea to the stars. Could you not return Liriana back to the way she was? Time passes, and she learns she awoke in Liriana's body 1 year after her own death. A maid slams a plate with a single moldy piece of bread onto the table. The maid coldly tells her to eat quickly, as she needs to clean up immediately. As she eats the cold food, she's heartbroken to realize how Liriana must have been treated. She discovers Liriana's wardrobe contains only a few old, mismatched clothes. The room is old and neglected, covered in a thick layer of dust. She realizes with dread that her daughter's health is noticeably worsening. Struggling up the stairs, she worries that Liriana's frail body will only deteriorate further. After she was found outside, surveillance grew stricter, and she could no longer leave the tower. The only bright spot in her confinement was the cheerful visits from Dagon. Dagon named the beast Ame after the gemstone ametrine, noting it spent most of its days sleeping. Dagon admires the sleeping Amy, but she wonders if he only visits to see the dragon. She wonders what Ame eats, and the little dragon curiously sniffs at her offered hand. Chomp. Ame playfully bites Dagon's finger, startling him. An older man asks if Amy follows Liriana, but she says no, admitting she doesn't know why it was alone. Dagon quickly changes the subject, calling out to Liriana. He grins, excitedly asking if she wants to go play outside. When she says she can't leave, he confidently assures her he's gotten friendly with the staff. A passing maid firmly states that her leaving won't be possible. A small drawing captures Dagon's bright optimism beside Liriana's weary expression. Dagon confronts the maid, demanding to know why Liriana is forbidden from going outside. A tall man in a dark, ornate uniform appears. Emperor Shevlot. She looks up in shock, her body trembling slightly. Her thoughts race. She never expected to face Shevlot so soon. A close-up reveals his cold, piercing red eyes. She clutches her dress nervously, wondering if he could possibly recognize her. She pushes the fear aside, deciding this is a good chance to ask him something. Shevlot gives a single, cold command to put her back inside. He admonishes the terrified maid, stating he never gave permission for the child to be outside. The cruel treatment floods her memory, and she finally understands why Liriana suffered so much. She sees Liriana's life of isolation, an unrecognized child, tormented as the witch's daughter. She questions if anything would truly change for Liriana, even if her soul was restored. Her hand clenches into a fist as she makes a new resolve. First, she will set everything right. Her thoughts swirl, questioning Shevlot before correcting herself. A vision of her daughter Liriana appears, pure and innocent. With newfound determination, her eyes harden for the confrontation. She now sits across from Shevlot in a sunlit pavilion. Her bright green eyes reflect the scene before her. She steels herself, now facing the very man who killed her. She recalls Emperor Shivloth Calabria, once an unconventional crown prince. He is now the young emperor who has ascended the throne. And he is the only royal who can use the legendary Aura of Light. More importantly, he is Liriana's father, the father of this body. A pink-haired maid nervously offers to serve them some tea. In the background, other maids whisper and gossip behind their hands. A maid covers her teacup, and she senses the tense, unwelcoming atmosphere. She glances around, wondering who they are all looking at. Chevlot gazes at her with cold, piercing red eyes. She flinches, recognizing the sword at his hip was the one that killed her. She remembers Liriana cowering in fear behind a maid. The memory of Chevlot standing over her as she died flashes through her mind. Looking up at him, she asks if he finds this boring. She recalls her dying moments, asking if boring was all he had to say to her. She sits in silence, her head bowed at the small table. From above, Chevlot is seen slumped back in his chair. She thinks that despite everything, she foolishly held on to expectations for him. "What you say is correct, Your Majesty," she says, taking a small step. She gestures to her surroundings, declaring everything there is boring. His expression shifts, a flicker of interest in his cold eyes. He questions her statement about the crumbling tower, but she notes that he still chose to come. She boldly states that he doesn't waste his time on worthless things. His brow furrows in annoyance as he asks what she means. To him, she thinks, Liriana is nothing more than a worthless stone found in a pocket. He steps closer, a hint of a smirk on his face as he finds her interesting. Kneeling before her, he captures her attention, just as she planned. He demands to know who coached her to speak to him like that. A man beside him remarks that Liriana doesn't resemble the Emperor. Crap, she thinks. Startled by the unexpected complication, Chevlot's face twists with rage, and he furiously demands to know who dared teach her to speak to him that way. She hesitates, trying to think of what to say. Suddenly, she spots Amy's wing and calls for the dragon to wait. Swoosh! Ame zips between her and the Emperor, startling them both. Dagon suddenly tackles the dragon, shouting, "Got you!" as she calls out his name. She and Chevlot stare blankly at the unexpected interruption. Dagon smiles brightly, holding the creature, which is now wrapped in a blanket. He presents the bundle to Liriana, claiming it's the item she requested, leaving her confused. Chevlot coldly informs Dagon that Liriana isn't a registered royal. Dagon gives her a knowing smirk as she looks on in silence. The blonde boy kneels before the Emperor, apologizing for his rudeness. Dagon of the Goldev family formally pays his respects to the Emperor. Chevlot tells him to rise, wondering who influenced the boy to come here. Dagon whispers to Liriana that he had to intervene because of Ame, despite telling her to stay put. She looks back, starting to counter what he said. As Chevlot walks away, Dagon tells her she was half right and half wrong. Chevlot admits he weighs the value of everything, but doesn't discard things without reason. He coldly states that her mother was the one who first betrayed his trust. Stunned, she wonders what on earth he could be talking about. Remembering he never listened to her, she dismisses his words, deciding Liriana is what matters now. As she walks away, she defiantly thinks that she hasn't done anything wrong. He coolly tells her that just because she hasn't done anything doesn't make her useful, and she must change things herself if she wants something. She walks away in silence as Dagon watches her with a worried expression. The scene shifts to the lone tower under a starry night sky. Back in her room, she confronts a maid, questioning how she can prove her usefulness when her own daughter is so neglected. Her eyes fall upon another person in the room, the young pink-haired maid. She recognizes the pink-haired girl as the maid who brought the tea earlier. She observes the maid's youthful face, guessing she is a new hire. The brown-haired maid serves her food, deliberately spilling hot soup onto her hand. Lying, the maid feigns surprise and scolds her for not accepting the tray properly. A close-up shows a flash of determination in her green eye. The maid thinks that while the tower's exterior can't be changed, Liriana has other ideas. Sitting on her bed, she resolves that what's inside can still be changed. As the two maids leave, the room is once again quiet. The maid demands she pick up the spilled food, asking if she's ignoring her. The maid insults her upbringing, asking if her family taught her nothing. Crash! The maid angrily slams the food trolley back into place. The maid smirks cruelly, taunting that Liriana is the one who truly grew up without learning anything. She reflects on the insult, remembering that in truth it was the opposite. Crack! A memory flashes of a whip striking a young woman's arm. She recalls her mother punishing a maid she once cherished for stealing. Her mother's voice explains that people mistake kindness for weakness and servants forget their place. In a fragmented memory, the maid begs for forgiveness over a small item, but her mother shows no mercy. Her mother taught her a harsh lesson. Punishment must be heavy, rewards light. Looking back, she remembers her mother's belief that only a merciless whip ensures loyalty. She recalls how the maid and her family were exiled, and no one dared defy her mother again. With newfound resolve, she announces that everyone will be dismissed except for a head maid she will personally choose. The maid sputters in disbelief, demanding to know what right she has to say that. Remembering Chevlot's challenge to change things herself, she prepares her response. She calmly states that His Majesty has entrusted the tower's management to her. The maid scoffs, but Liriana challenges her, asking if anything outweighs the Emperor's word. Thinking of the maid's dismissive attitude, she dares her to repeat her doubts when her father returns. Stunned by the word father, the maid decides to take her leave. The furious maid stomps away, thinking Liriana has developed a princess complex. In another room, a woman in black sits pensively, mulling over the news of Liriana choosing a head maid. Two maids gossip about the incident, noting how Liriana, once silent, boldly spoke up to the Emperor. One maid dismisses it as a child's game, but another, Serena, thinks it's not bad at all. Serena points out that everyone in the tower was exiled for one reason or another. The other maid asks what she's getting at, and Serena smiles, sensing an opportunity for them to escape. A maid recalls that day was the first time the Emperor ever truly looked at Liriana. Later, a delicious and proper meal is placed before her. A new maid introduces herself, presenting the meal as an apology for the previous maid's behavior. In the quiet, grand hall, two maids watch from a distance as Liriana is properly served. Gossip spreads about Serena using the kitchen last night. The maids buzz with rumors that a head maid will be chosen. Surprised, Serena fell for Liriana's bluff, but acknowledging the power of the Emperor's words. Panic and plotting spread among the maids as they realize their futures depend on winning Liriana's favor, but the brown-haired maid scoffs, calling them fools. Liriana, her hair neatly styled, authoritatively asks who is in charge of her room's cleanliness. The brown-haired maid from before approaches with a smile, noting how few maids are left and that it couldn't hurt to be nicer. The maid dismisses the pink-haired maid, Tanya, claiming the tower belongs to her and another, leaving Liriana confused by her statement. Liriana realizes the maid is talking about Tanya, recalling that the young maid is inexperienced and only follows orders. She concludes that the fault lies not with the student, but with her teacher. The brown-haired maid looks flustered, realizing she's been implicated. From her balcony, Liriana watches the maid storm off in the garden, shouting about the absurdity of it all. With Ome by her side, she reflects that the open disrespect has stopped, but wonders how long the peace will last. In the isolated tower, the maids fell into a routine, but Liriana remained an outsider to their structured world. Walking down the hall, she mulls over her crucial decision, who to choose as her head maid and loyal confidant. She considers her options, the capable Serena, the controlling Anna, and the uncertain Tanya. Despite the changing dynamics, two knights remain defiant, loitering in the hallway as a maid hurries past. One of the knights smugly remarks that a place like the tower is no place for them. Liriana confronts the knights, telling them to stop laughing and lingering in the corridor. The knight mockingly pretends not to hear her, so she cleverly reminds them that it's mealtime. Dagon arrives just in time, apologizing for his tardiness and explaining he was busy with sword practice. He reminds the knights of their oath to serve their lord, making Liriana question if her father's understanding of loyalty was wrong. The knights immediately bow and depart, much to Liriana's surprise at their swift change in demeanor. A narrative panel introduces Dagon, Grand Master of the Imperial Knights, whose unwavering character is more impressive than his title. Dagon leans in to whisper to Liriana about the favor she asked of him. With new resolve, she thanks him, confirming that she has finally made her decision. Liriana stands before the assembled staff, formally announcing she has gathered them to choose her head maid. The maid Anna smirks, whispering confidently that Liriana will surely choose her or Serena for a comfortable life. Liriana begins her announcement, preparing to name her chosen head maid. In a dark flashback, she recalls once believing her mother's cruel teachings were correct. She remembers the day everyone abandoned her, resolving then to live a life completely different from her mother's. The pink-haired maid, Tanya, looks up in absolute shock as the other maids gasp at the unexpected choice. The other maids murmur in disbelief, with Anna questioning if Tanya has ever even cleaned Liriana's room. Liriana fiercely orders them to speak properly, revealing Tanya has been cleaning the tower's corridors all along. Stunned, Anna asks how she knew, and Liriana thinks of Dagon's help in gathering information. She remembers that Tanya was the only one brave enough to serve her tea, and the only one who never showed disrespect. Liriana challenges them, asking if they truly thought she was an oblivious child, unaware of the tower's secrets. Splash the maid, Anna retaliates by pouring a pitcher of water over Liriana's head. Drenched and humiliated, Liriana looks down as water drips from her hair. Anna offers a fake apology, sarcastically asking if the tea was too cold. Leaning in with a cruel smirk, Anna tells her it's time to stop playing princess. As Anna turns to leave, she freezes, startled by an unforeseen arrival. Emperor Shevlot stands before them, his expression radiating cold fury. He rests a hand on a golden chair as a maid cries out his title in alarm. The emperor's imposing figure dominates the room, his displeasure palpable. Anna stammers in terror, while a tearful, drenched Liriana looks up at the emperor's arrival. Shevlot steps between Liriana and the maid, coldly stating he wasn't asking for her input. He approaches the maids, his voice laced with menace, reminding them they know what answer he requires. The maid, Anna, forces a terrified smile, stammering incoherently. She panics, realizing with dread that the emperor has finally started paying attention to Liriana. Glaring down at the terrified maid, he asks contemptuously if she has lost her tongue. Liriana steps forward defiantly, declaring to the emperor, "She belongs to me." He asks what she was doing, and she explains she was teaching the servants responsibility. He coldly questions if getting hot tea poured on her head was part of the lesson. Liriana admits that while it was necessary, she did disrupt the palace's order. Stunned, Anna wonders why Liriana is covering for her. Liriana looks down, stating that she is bowing her head in apology. Anna watches in confused silence. Suddenly, Anna throws herself to the floor, begging the emperor for forgiveness and siding with Liriana. She thinks to herself that this isn't to protect Liriana, but to secure her own standing. All the maids fall to their knees, pleading for the emperor's mercy and benevolence. Annoyed, the emperor sighs and orders them to stand back at once. He turns to Liriana, telling her to go and tidy herself up. As the scene pans to the dilapidated tower, he declares he will inspect it himself. Shevlot stands alone on a dusty balcony, surveying the tower's interior. The scene shifts to a man with blonde hair reporting to Shevlot about the tower. The blonde man asks if Shevlot intends to erase Liriana from his heart entirely. Shevlot looks away, stating he knows the reason he left her there. The blonde man insists the tower is too cruel a place for a small child like Liriana. The tower's interior is shown in a state of decay, covered in cobwebs and debris. Back in the tower, Liriana tells Shevlot she can see the Emerald Palace from the window. She recalls it was the palace granted to her and her mother as Shevlot watches her. A close-up shows the dirt and grime on Liriana's simple clothes. His expression softens slightly as he quietly says he remembers. Liriana asks if the tower is a place for those who have committed crimes. He confirms it is, specifically for those who couldn't be sent to a normal prison. Clutching her dress, she begins to realize the horrifying implication of her exile. In a surreal moment, Shevlot's voice asks if he has come to despise Liriana as well. She clutches her sleeve and asks why, but he simply thinks, no. He tells her that she wasn't like this before. A close-up shows Liriana's wide, innocent green eyes staring back at him. A glimmer of light shines on the brooch pinned to his uniform. Liriana curtsies, asking for permission to take her leave from His Majesty. She quickly turns and runs away down the corridor. Later that night, a narrative panel reflects on a mistake. Lying in bed, Liriana worries she showed weakness, and that her efforts will be in vain. Swoosh! Her small dragon companion, Ame, flies in through the open window. She greets Amy, asking if the little dragon has returned from its walk. Munch. Amy gently nibbles on the edge of her pillow. Cuddling Ame, she apologizes and asks to be left alone for now. Knock, knock. Tanya calls out to Lady Liriana from behind the door, asking to come in. The pink-haired maid bursts in, urgently announcing a decree from the Emperor. Startled, Liriana wonders why there would be a decree for someone like her so late. Chevlot stands alone in a grand hall, gazing out the window at the starry sky. Liriana's eye reflects the stars as she silently questions why. He wonders if he despises her, seeing his own reflection in her eyes. Recalling the law, Liriana knows disturbing the imperial house means banishment, an offense rarely pardoned. In his mercy, Chevlot begins to announce his decree concerning Liriana Chevlot. He declares that she shall be moved to reside in the Emerald Palace. A new day dawns, bright and clear. Tanya clasps her hands in joy, telling Liriana she can finally return to the main palace. Liriana is stunned to be sent to the Emerald Palace, a place tied to Chevlot. She has a dark memory of the Emerald Palace being the place where Chevlot killed her. Her small dragon, Ame, soars freely through a bright blue sky. The scene shifts to the grand and beautiful Emerald Palace. A new staff, led by a blue-haired butler, welcomes Liriana and pledges their unwavering loyalty. Tanya expresses her awe at the new palace, while an unseen observer questions the Emperor's motives. The observer continues to ponder the strange decision to send the tower's head maid with Liriana. The blue-haired butler separates Liriana from Tanya, asking her to come with him. He leads her through a grand and beautifully ornate door. Liriana is amazed to find herself in a luxurious boutique, as the butler tells her a designer will arrive soon. Suddenly, Tanya tries to prevent another princess from entering the room. A cheerful blonde princess named Blina enters, calling for someone named Madeline. Her happy expression fades as she notices the unexpected guests. Clutching her dress, she stares at them with disdain, wondering who they are. Princess Blina confronts Liriana and Tanya, looking down on them contemptuously. Tanya whispers a warning as Liriana recognizes the newcomer as Princess Blina. Blina crosses her arms, remarking that she's never seen Liriana's face before. The butler interrupts, stating he is following the Emperor's orders, which shocks Blina. Furious that the Emperor would prioritize someone else, Blina spits out Liriana's name. Liriana calmly stands her ground, insisting Blina use her name properly. Blina glares silently, momentarily surprised by Liriana's unexpected confidence. A formal introduction reveals Princess Blina Chevlot, the sole princess of Calabria. Liriana clenches her fists, standing firm in the face of her rival. Blina, flustered for a moment, questions Liriana's claim with uncertainty. Suddenly, one of Blina's ladies-in-waiting grabs Liriana's arm aggressively. As the woman grips her face, a voice cries out Liriana's name in alarm. A furious observer's eye is shown, reflecting on Liriana's expression and thinking, "How dare you touch her?" Blina smiles cruelly, berating Liriana for her perceived disrespect and lowly status. Liriana looks down, quietly musing on the ironic lecture about manners. She looks up with a defiant retort, pointing out that Blina is the one who lacks manners. One of Blina's attendants whispers Liriana's identity to her, while Tanya panics in the background. Blina's eyes widen in shock as she realizes Liriana is that witch's daughter. Hearing the Emperor has assigned her designer to Liriana, Blina throws a tantrum, refusing to share. She angrily points at Liriana, screaming that the room was made exclusively for her. Liriana calmly counters, asserting her own right to be there as a direct descendant of the Emperor. She lands a final blow, asking if Blina is afraid of losing her monopoly, leaving the princess stunned. Enraged, Blina lunges forward to strike Liriana as Ame dives from the chandelier to intervene. Blina pauses mid-lunge, confused by the sudden blur that flashes past her. Wham! Ame latches firmly onto Blina's hair, causing her to cry out in pain. Liriana gasps Ame's name in surprise as the attendants scream for their princess. As Ame circles her, Blina flails on the floor, desperately screaming for help. An attendant makes a grab for Ame's tail as Tanya shouts a warning to Liriana. Swoosh! The little dragon expertly evades them and flies into Liriana's arms. Cradling Ame, Liriana worries that his protective stunt has just made things much worse. Blena and her maid stare in stunned, humiliated silence after the chaotic attack. The terrified ladies-in-waiting shrink back, calling Ame a witch's familiar. Tanya steps forward protectively, ordering them to be silent while dreading the inevitable fallout. The tense confrontation is interrupted by the arrival of a handsome, blonde-haired young man. Blena's expression immediately brightens as she calls out joyfully to the boy, Dagon. She runs to him, putting on an act of being frightened, but he subtly turns away from her. The blonde boy, Dagon, asks if she showed Ame to everyone, but Liriana explains the dragon acted on its own. Dagon reassures the room that Ame is harmless if unprovoked, as he is introduced as Lord Dagon Goldiv. From behind, Princess Blena asks what happened, tearfully accusing Dagon of leaving her behind. Dagon walks past Blena with Liriana, offering a stiff apology and asking if the princess has been well. Blena smiles sweetly, telling Dagon not to be so formal with her. She asks Dagon if he will be attending her upcoming birthday banquet, adding that she is looking forward to it. Blena continues, saying she thinks it would be good to add one more guest to her party. Grabbing Liriana's arm, Blena leans in close and says she really wants Liriana to attend as well. Liriana senses Blena has an ulterior motive but feels compelled to accept. Steeling herself, Liriana declares she will definitely attend and thanks the princess for the opportunity. Momentarily taken aback, Blena states she will send an invitation later. Fuming, Blena orders her attendants back to the Rose Palace, shooting a hateful glare over her shoulder. Ame peeks out from behind a pillar as an unseen woman exclaims, "Oh my." A stylish woman in a large hat fawns over Liriana, delighted by her rare ebony hair and the fun she will have. The butler calls her Madeline, and she introduces herself as Madeline Dwatch, or Maddie. Madeline gets straight to work, pointing out outfits and ordering Tanya to help Liriana change. Dagon begins to excuse himself but stops, blushing as he decides to stay and watch. Madeline playfully stops him, announcing that the first runway is just starting. Liriana is revealed in a stunning and elaborate light blue gown with a matching hat. Dagon's eyes sparkle with wonder, completely captivated by her appearance. A thought bubble expresses pure awe while looking out onto a grand palace balcony. A blushing Dagon tells Liriana she looks like a beautiful fairy from a tapestry. Liriana shyly thanks him as Madeline excitedly calls for the next outfit. As Madeline extols the virtues of black hair as a canvas, Liriana models 2 more beautiful dresses. Madeline declares her work marvelous and promises to procure the finest materials for a new banquet gown. Now in a yellow dress, Liriana tries to stop her, pointing out that Tanya is exhausted from all the changes. Madeline insists her inspiration is soaring, while Liriana privately notes that Dagon seems to be enjoying the show. Ame poses triumphantly on a cushion as Dagon praises the little dragon, much to Liriana's amusement. While Madeline wonders if she put diamonds on Am's scarf, the blue-haired butler addresses Liriana as Lady Relena. The butler smiles, asking if it is time for them to return to the Emerald Palace. The scene transitions to the magnificent Emerald Palace under a dusky pink sky. A door is held open as they are beckoned inside. Liriana enters a grand hall, thinking to herself that just as she suspected, all the servants have been replaced. She looks down with a grim, troubled expression. Standing alone in the vast hall, a narrator reveals that to Relena, this palace is just another tower. Liriana understands that the new servants are the Emperor's eyes, and her every move will now be watched. Tanya hesitantly begins to speak to Lady Relena, her voice trailing off. A new purple-haired maid named Bennett steps forward, introducing herself as Liriana's personal maid. The view pans across a long, sunlit, and empty palace corridor. Bennett grandly announces that Liriana will be taking her meals in the main dining room. Liriana cuts her short, stating she only needs Tanya, but Bennett argues Tanya is inexperienced with the palace. Bennett earnestly pleads to stay by Lady Relena's side, insisting she needs a guide for her new home. Musing on the words new home, Liriana realizes the staff is unaware of her past here and reluctantly agrees. Overjoyed, Bennett exclaims her delight and quickly takes Liriana's hand. Bennett excitedly begins to lead her away, offering to show her the corridor leading to the annex. Liriana's eyes widen in alarm as she realizes where they are going. She panics and pulls back, insisting that she cannot go there yet. A dark vision flashes through her mind of a younger version of herself lying dead on the floor. Liriana's eyes are wide with sheer terror as the past threatens to overwhelm her. Liriana struggles to compose herself, insisting her past self can't possibly still be there. Seeing her distress, Bennett calls out to Lady Rowena with concern. The grand, empty hallway seems to echo with unspoken memories. In a flashback, a younger Rowena wonders why the Emperor never visits, blaming her own weak body. She heartbreakingly asks if someone would be better off without her. A comforting voice from her past insists that isn't true, starting to say what she means to them. The memory shifts to her waking up in a beautiful, star-themed bed. Back in the present, Liriana reflects that she's pushed Rowena's body too hard lately. Getting out of bed, she walks unsteadily, her thoughts solely on Rowena. A painful memory surfaces of a mother and daughter being torn apart by death. Liriana touches her chest, sensing an instinctual urgency driving her forward. She clenches her fist with resolve, knowing she must win Chevlot's trust before it's too late. Liriana envisions the resources she will gain as princess, wealth, knowledge, and experts, to uncover the secret of the dragon's magic that binds her to Rowena's body. Her eyes filled with determination, she vows to do anything for Rowena's sake. Hearing a flutter, Liriana turns to the open balcony door and calls out for Ame. Ame sits perched on the balcony railing, looking out into the starry night. The little dragon leaps from the railing and flies into her waiting arms. Cradling Ame, she sadly notes he's been distant lately and asks where he's been going. She gently pets his head as he nuzzles into her embrace. Standing by the window, Liriana holds her companion and gazes silently at the night sky. A dark thought crosses her mind as she wonders what she would do if she lost Rowena forever. Ame snuggles closer, seeming to sense her fear and offer comfort. The little dragon lets out a soft kyo, and Liriana looks down, asking what's wrong. Suddenly, a glowing blue crystal necklace materializes before her. Liriana gasps as the necklace's light envelops her entire body. Whoosh! She is suddenly pulled from the balcony and into the air, crying out that she's going to fall. Her panic gives way to awe as her eyes reflect the vast, starry sky. Floating high above the palace, she sees Ami is carrying her by his tail. She looks around in sheer amazement at the magical sight. Realizing Ame is using levitation magic, Liriana asks if he did this, to which he replies, Kyo. From their high vantage point, she marvels at the magnificent view of the imperial palace at night. Liriana reflects on how Ame has always tried to protect and comfort her, even when she didn't realize it. She looks at him with newfound understanding, wondering if this was his goal all along. Floating together against the moonlit sky, a feeling of deep connection forms between them. Amy looks back at her with fierce, protective eyes. Time flies as Liriana and her maids prepare for the much-anticipated banquet. The day of the party arrives, set at a magnificent white palace under a clear blue sky. A title card announces the start of Princess Blina's birthday banquet as nobles fill the grand hall. A massive, sparkling mountain of presents is piled high for the princess. The ballroom is packed with nobles from all over, many attending for political reasons. A guest excitedly announces that Princess Blina has finally arrived. Elegant shoes descend a grand staircase, heralding the princess's entrance. Princess Elena makes her grand entrance on the arm of Dagon, looking radiant. Two young noble girls in the crowd gasp in admiration at the princess's beauty. Blina greets her guests with a dazzling smile, welcoming them and promising the festivities will begin when her father arrives. While Blina waves to the crowd, Dagon scans the room, his eyes searching for someone. Two noble women gossip, commenting that Blina and Dagon already look like a perfect couple. Blina smugly asks Dagon if he heard the gossip, finding it hilarious. Dagon offers a stiff apology, pointedly asking the princess to repeat herself as he's busy looking for Liriana. Blina's smile shatters, her eyes wide with fury and humiliation at his public rejection. As a flustered Blina watches, Liriana makes a surprise entrance. Liriana is revealed in a magnificent, glittering, galaxy-themed blue gown. Two noble ladies marvel at the dress, recognizing the brooch as Madeline's signature work. A group of girls crowds around Liriana asking for her name and about her brooch, but she seems overwhelmed. A voice rings out, expressing surprise that Liriana actually showed up. One of the girls asks Princess Blina if she knows Liriana, and the princess smugly confirms she does. Blina hides a smirk behind her fan, coldly declaring Liriana to be that witch's daughter. The crowd erupts in shocked whispers, recalling a past tragedy and questioning why Liriana is present. Liriana overhears a cruel comment that she should have stayed locked away in a tower. She clenches her fist, her expression hardening against the insults. Alone amidst judging silhouettes, she's glad she isn't the real Liriana, who would be hurt by these words. Blina leans in close, taunting Liriana about real palace life and telling her to get used to it. Blina and her friends walk away, discussing an upcoming sword competition. Deciding she needs a break, Liriana resolves to go to the garden. A young Dagon tries to call out to her, but is interrupted. Dagon's father firmly stops him, ordering his son to stay in his place. A dejected Dagon apologizes to his father as Princess Blina walks by. Dagon watches in silence with a troubled expression. A young noble girl excitedly approaches Blina, asking if her dress is one of Madeline's designs. The girl timidly addresses the princess, but then falters, wondering if she said something wrong. Blina sharply turns away with a cold look. Peeking over her fan, Blina's eyes gleam with a cruel intensity. Flinch. The girls are startled and frightened by the princess's sudden, chilling reaction. Blina turns back with a kind facade, denying the dress is a Madeline design and thanking the girl for the compliment. Her friends ask what happened, but Blina dismisses the dress, claiming her friends are what truly matter. The conversation shifts as one of the girls mentions the dress the witch's daughter was wearing. With grim expressions, the girls lean in, asking the princess to tell them the story in private. The scene shifts to a peaceful, sunlit gazebo in the palace garden. Liriana stands alone, quietly taking in the serene view. A group of children confronts her, accusing her of coveting what belongs to the princess. Liriana tries to walk away, but a boy shouts for the others to grab her. As they seize her, a green crystal necklace is revealed, and she yells not to touch Liriana's body. The children stare in awe at the glowing green gem. The others accuse her of having a mana crystal, but one boy insists it's just an emerald, as a kid can't handle magic. Unconvinced, they decide to take the necklace from her just in case. Bump! In the struggle, Liriana is shoved backward over the stone railing. Her eyes widen in shock as she falls, while the children look on in horror at what they've done. The children panic by the water's edge, unsure who can swim and worried about ruining their clothes. Sinking beneath the waves, Liriana realizes she can't breathe. The heavy, waterlogged dress pulls her further down into the depths. Clutching the mana crystal, she despairs, unable to use it and fearing she will drown. As she loses consciousness, her last thought is a plea for someone to help. On the bridge, the children gasp as they see someone emerge from the water. Flash! A mysterious figure in a dark hood leaps from the water, carrying Liriana. The rescuer holds her gently, chiding her for playing dangerous games as she weakly realizes she's alive. He begins explaining a magic formula for swapping objects, leaving Liriana confused but grateful. The man's hood falls back, revealing a handsome, smiling man with white hair and violet eyes. He carries her to safety on the stone path, while the other children watch from afar. The mysterious white-haired man smiles warmly, radiating a gentle energy. The children who pushed her stare in complete shock and confusion. Liriana smiles brightly, insisting the children didn't do it on purpose. The white-haired man smiles back, respecting her kind decision. The three children who pushed her watch from the bridge, stunned. Whoosh! A wave of magical energy suddenly envelops the startled children. As the terrified children flee, the man asks Liriana if she can stand, privately reflecting on his actions. He offers a gentle hand to help her up, but she hesitates. He effortlessly lifts her, spinning her around in a swirl of blue fabric. Liriana is amazed to find her dress is completely dry, realizing he can control the elements. She spies his high-grade magic stones, deducing he must be a top-tier mage or of high rank. Noting his foreign attire, she timidly thanks him for his help. The mysterious man smiles warmly, waiting for her to continue. She grows puzzled, sensing he's expecting something more from her. Her thoughts are interrupted as a voice calls out, "There you are." Dagon rushes to her side, explaining he had to slip away from his post. The white-haired man vanishes in a flash, wishing Liliana a good time at the banquet. Liliana is shocked he knew her name, as Dagon asks if the wizard from Hisare caused trouble. The scene introduces the kingdom of Hisare, a wealthy nation of magic and ships. Hisare is revealed to be Empress Herpia's homeland, making the wizard's presence all the more mysterious. Dagon identifies the man as Count Violad, a legendary wizard who sealed 4 magic towers. While Dagon expresses surprise, Liliana feels an inexplicable sense of having met the Count before. Dagon offers her his hand, and they agree to return to the banquet hall. The scene shifts to the magnificent, glittering interior of the palace. An announcer heralds the arrival of Emperor Sevlot and Empress Herpia as honor guards cross their swords. From the crowd, Liliana watches the grand entrance unfold. The Emperor and Empress appear on a high balcony as Princess Blina joyfully calls out to her parents. The royal family shares a warm moment, smiling lovingly at one another. The opulent hall sparkles under the light of the grand chandeliers. Liliana looks up from the floor below, watching the royal family from a distance. Empress Herpia's warm smile fades, replaced by a cold, piercing glare. Liliana meets the Empress's gaze, her own expression hardening in defiance. The Empress asks why Liliana is present, and the Emperor reveals he personally invited that witch's daughter. Princess Blina is furious at the revelation, demanding an explanation from her father. Feigning innocence, she tearfully asks her father if she did something wrong. The Emperor sighs, running a hand through his hair and dismissing her concerns. He turns to leave for his duties, ignoring Blina's pleas for him to stay. The Empress comforts her daughter, gently advising her to discuss such matters with them first in the future. Blina seethes with resentment, her birthday ruined by her father's anger. She stands alone on the balcony, staring down at the bustling party below. While Dagon brings Liliana a slice of cake, Blina's bitter thoughts accuse Liliana of stealing everything from her. "I'll never forgive her," she vows with burning hatred. Liliana senses a persistent stare and looks up from her dessert. She spots Blina on the balcony, watching her with a look of pure displeasure. As Liliana walks on, a thought declares the real show is about to start, while Blina looks on with grim resolve. The camera pans across the vast, elegant ballroom. Elsewhere, Emperor Sevlot is engaged in conversation with a group of nobles. An envoy bows respectfully, greeting the Emperor as the son of Calvaria. Liliana gracefully makes her way through the party, offering a polite greeting. Murmur. She finds herself surrounded by gossiping nobles, wondering what's happening. The Emperor suddenly confronts Liliana, ominously counting down as he demands an explanation. As Liliana silently finishes the count, another voice desperately shouts for His Majesty. Princess Blina triumphantly holds Liliana's hand before the court. Liliana inwardly praises Blina's clever decision to engage with her. She realizes, however, that the princess's scheme ultimately benefits her. Nearby nobles congratulate Princess Blina on her birthday and wonderful growth. A nobleman compliments her advanced swordsmanship, anticipating the upcoming competition. Blina smiles, enjoying the praise befitting the Emperor's daughter. She modestly credits her teacher, Sir Robert, for her skill. Blana quotes her father's wisdom about never underestimating the sword. Liliana recognizes the advice as a fundamental principle from the swordsmanship manual. Blina scoffs at Liliana's expressed concern that she might get hurt. Furious at the perceived insult, Blina's hand trembles with rage. She calms herself, thoughtfully remarking on Liliana's knowledge of swordplay. A sinister smile spreads across Blina's face as she looks at Liliana. Standing on a checkered floor, Blina formally challenges Liliana to a duel. Emperor Sevlot questions Blina's actions but then allows the duel. Before a stunned crowd, Liliana calmly accepts the challenge. The Emperor and the young blonde noble Dagon look on in shock. The crowd murmurs that Liliana's fearlessness must come from ignorance. Blina loudly proclaims that in Calbria, a spoken vow is unbreakable. The Emperor watches from a distance with a sigh. He declares he will preside over the duel in 1 month, assigning Sir Robert to train Liliana. "What?" Blina cries out, completely against the idea. The emperor sternly silences Blina, telling her that's enough. He dismisses Liriana, who respectfully departs as Blina glares. Liriana can only think that the entire situation is absurd. Dagon shouts in protest, decrying the unfairness of the duel. His father quickly steps in, apologizing profusely to the emperor. The father grips Dagon's shoulder, informing him they will discuss punishment later. Liriana watches with a start as Dagon is escorted away. The scene transitions to a quiet, ornate hall. A tearful Blina complains to her mother, the empress, that her father gave her teacher away. Empress Herpia soothes her daughter, assuring her they're all on her side. The empress's eyes gleam, thinking that help is always available for the princess. The scene shifts to Liriana's residence, where a voice questions the duel. While getting her hair done, Liriana tells her maid she will now learn from Sir Robert. Holding a practice sword, she resolves to find a way to protect Liriana's body without magic. Knock knock. A maid with purple hair arrives to see Lady Liriana. She delivers shocking news. Sir Robert was injured in a carriage accident. The maids find the timing suspicious. As one reports, the emperor is sending a replacement instructor. Liriana accepts the setback, just glad to have a teacher. Now dressed for training, Liriana is called out to the grounds. Her maid, Tanya, explains that the new instructor is also injured after falling down some stairs. Liriana is shocked, realizing 2 accidents can't be a coincidence. She decides she must act and resolves to send a letter to the emperor. In the letter, she will state that she no longer requires an instructor. The grand mansion stands peacefully under a clear blue sky. Dagon sits by a window, lost in thought, with a sigh. A clatter outside startles him from his thoughts. His eyes widen as he recognizes the carriage that has just arrived. A memory flashes of a young Liriana gently holding his hand and apologizing. Liriana asks Dagon if his house arrest is because of her. He laments not understanding his father, feeling more distant the harder he tries. Liriana listens silently, her expression thoughtful. She looks up at him with a confused, "Huh?" as he holds her hand. She pulls him along, dismissing his father's orders as irrelevant. Liriana smiles with cheerful resolve. Dagon calls for her to wait as they enter a sunny green clearing. She asks if he's sure about helping her, and if he's ever fought the princess. He reveals he was the princess's regular sparring partner, fighting her often. Liriana happily puts herself in his care, realizing his skill level. Dagon smiles, understanding this confirms his own excellent skills. A montage shows Dagon training Liriana, sharing a picnic, and practicing diligently. Crack, a wooden training sword shatters from the force of their practice. Liriana winces in pain as Dagon rushes to her side in concern. She shows him a small cut on her hand, assuring him it isn't deep. He suggests they stop, but she hesitates, as her inner thoughts note her rapid progress under his tutelage. She privately worries that her current skills are no match for the princess's elite training. A shadowy figure appears, asking if they'd like to try a little more. Liriana and Dagon turn in surprise at the sudden voice. The white-haired man, Count Violad, appears with a knowing smirk. He lounges casually, offering his assistance with their training. Dagon is shocked, identifying the man as Count Violad. The Count teases them, remarking that the entire castle is gossiping about them. The Count takes a step forward onto the grassy field. Dagon politely declines the offer, but the Count slyly suggests magic might be better. Dagon furiously defends their hard work, while Liriana tries to calm him. The narrative highlights Princess Blina's renown as a swordsmanship prodigy. It's foretold she will wield a golden sword aura, making magic Liriana's only hope. Liliana is determined to succeed for the original Liliana's sake. The Count respects her decision, seeing her mind is made up. He casually mentions he will be staying on the outskirts of Calvaria. Dagon rallies with renewed vigor, ready to show everyone their strength. He sheepishly admits he just wants to find more ways to help her succeed. Waving goodbye, Dagon cheerfully promises to see her tomorrow. Liriana watches him leave, feeling grateful for their friendship. A grand carriage carrying Dagon departs through the forest. Clunk. The carriage wheel hits an obstruction on the path. Inside another carriage, a thought wonders about the original Liliana's soul returning. The driver shouts in alarm as the carriage jolts unexpectedly. The carriage rattles onward down the wooded path. A memory of Dagon's bright, happy smile flashes by. The memory fades over a close-up of his training clothes. A maid calls out to Liriana, asking what's wrong. Liriana dismisses the maid's concern, but an uneasy feeling remains. Crash! She returns to find her room's doors shattered and barricaded. A nervous maid explains the fairy dragon causes trouble when she's away. Grr! A small, white dragon sits on a table, looking very annoyed. As the maids tremble, Liriana calls for her pet, Ame, to come here. Whoosh! Ame unleashes a blast of fire, terrifying the maids. Liriana stares at her misbehaving dragon with a serious expression. Cradling a now calm Ame, Liriana apologizes to her maids and scolds her pet. She muses that Ame's destructive outbursts always have a reason behind them. In bed, Liriana instructs her maid, Tanya, to carefully monitor anyone who enters her room. She places her hand on an ornate red box, dismissing Tanya so she can rest. Holding the box, her thoughts drift to young Master Dagon. A new day begins at a grand, sprawling mansion. Liriana rushes down a staircase in a panic, calling out for Dagon. She finds him bandaged and with his arm in a sling, smiling as he asks how she found out. Dagon dismisses Liriana's concern over his injuries, insisting he can still assist her training. A flash of pain zaps through his injured arm. A red-haired boy stops him, revealing that Dagon was in a serious carriage accident. Liriana clutches Ame, her eyes wide with shock as she processes the news. The red-haired boy Leo angrily blames the accidents on Liliana being a witch's daughter, prompting Dagon to furiously shout his full name, Leonhardt Rebellion. Dagon calls Leo a coward for believing rumors and angrily tells him to go home. Liriana sits with Dagon, apologizing for Leo's behavior and insisting he rest while she trains alone. She stares at a gifted practice sword, wondering about its origin. A memory of Dagon's bright, cheerful smile flashes in her mind. Her face darkens with worry as she holds the sword. The scene shifts to the stately entrance of another large estate. Tanya explains that the Duke is inspecting the wrecked carriage from Dagon's accident. Leo's accusatory words echo in her mind, questioning the string of injuries around her. Liriana clenches her fist, convinced this is no coincidence or string of bad luck. Determined, she orders Tanya to summon all servants and coachmen connected to the incident. Her investigation leads her to a lavish room, where she stands in surprise. Before her is an extravagant spread of cakes and desserts. Seeing the sweets, Liriana puts on a bright, innocent smile. A maid explains that a variety of treats were prepared for Lady Liliana's visit. The blonde Duke cuts to the chase, asking Liriana why she has come. She sweetly thanks him for allowing Dagon to be her sword instructor. With a polite smile, she steers the conversation toward Dagon's recent accident. The Duke calmly reports that the carriage mechanic confessed to being negligent. He adds that the mechanic will be exiled for bringing harm to the family. The Duke's explanation doesn't sit right with Liriana, who thinks to herself that this can't be the end of it. She reveals her hand, placing a large, sharp nail on the table that she claims was stuck in the wheel. Sensing the Duke's suspicion, she reminds herself to act like a child as she begins her story. Feigning innocence, she claims she explored the carriage out of sadness and overheard the servants blaming the crash on the nail. She recounts what the servants supposedly said about their rigorous maintenance protocols, directly contradicting the mechanic's confession. The Duke covers his mouth, his expression shifting to one of deep suspicion. Liriana innocently wonders aloud why a saboteur would be careless enough to leave evidence behind. The Duke considers her point, reasoning there was no opportunity for tampering after the crash, and begins to suspect his wife's involvement. The sun sets over the Grand Ducal estate. Leaving with an armful of gifts, Liriana asks Tanya if Ame has been behaving himself. Tanya reports that Ame ran off, but Liriana dismisses the concern, confident he'll return. The butler presents her with a sheathed sword, explaining it's a gift from Dagon. Liriana tells Tanya to go on ahead, saying she left something behind. Tanya calls after her from a distance, urging her to be careful. Liriana finds a quiet, secluded spot on the estate grounds. She carefully draws the ornate golden sword from its scabbard. She holds the beautiful blade, realizing it's the special gift from Dagon she almost forgot. With the sword in hand, she worries about how she will train alone for her fast-approaching duel. The blonde duke thinks to himself, blaming his own arrogance for the attacks. As Liriana walks away, she wonders who would dare target the Goldeye family, and if they're trying to isolate her. A painful memory surfaces of a woman in a blue dress comforting a crying, younger Liriana. In the memory, the woman sits on a floor stained with blood, whispering, "No." She clutches the young Liriana tightly, her eyes filled with desperation as she insists, "I didn't do it." The maids in the memory look away in disgust, their silence a condemnation. A desperate, unspoken plea echoes from the past. "Please, someone, believe me." The memory fades, and Liriana wonders why she is remembering that traumatic event now. A sound snaps Liriana back to the present, her expression shifting. She hears a noise from the estate grounds and turns to investigate. Wondering about the sound, she questions if the Duke has already sent someone. She peeks cautiously from behind a stone pillar. She spots a hooded figure kneeling and realizes their clothes are unfamiliar. Recognizing the person as an intruder, she debates whether she should call for help. Thud. Her foot snaps a twig, alerting the stranger to her presence. The hooded figure curses in frustration as Liriana watches in alarm. As the figure leaps over the fence to escape, Liriana resolves to follow, certain the culprit won't return. The cloaked intruder flees swiftly through the trees. Liriana pants heavily, struggling to keep up with the chase. She laments how difficult it is to run in Liliana's body, wishing Amy were there to help. She reaches a cliff's edge, realizing she's lost her target. Defeated, she decides it's time to head back. As she turns, she trips and falls, ambushed by two cloaked figures. The men are shocked to discover a little girl has been following them. He grimaces, deciding it can't be helped, and that it's nothing personal. Just as he resolves to push her off the cliff, Ame swoops in from the sky. Ame dives down, eyes glowing with protective purple energy. Liriana begins to stir, groaning as she wakes up. She opens her eyes and calls out in surprise as Ame lands protectively in front of her. The hooded man stumbles back in terror, asking what kind of creature Ame is. Ame deftly dodges, avoiding the men's clumsy attacks. With a roar, Ame unleashes a massive fireball toward the attacker. The hooded man is engulfed in the fiery blast. A blue magical barrier protects him from the flames, though the force sends him reeling. Liriana looks on in shock as Ame hovers protectively nearby. The man clutches a glowing charm, realizing his mana crystal saved him from the attack. Cradling Ame, Liriana recognizes the terrifying power protecting her foe is black magic. The man sneers, calling them unlucky and promising a more painful fate than simply falling. He begins chanting, conjuring a menacing pink magic circle. Liriana and Ame are caught in the spell's powerful light. Whoop! The spell violently throws Ame into the air, separating him from Liriana. The man laughs, mocking their foolish attempts to harm him. Ames's eyes burn with purple light, filled with fury. Ame unleashes a devastating blast of crackling purple lightning. The explosive battle gives way to a quiet, peaceful sunset. The attacker lies unconscious on the ground, as Liriana wonders if he merely fainted from the powerful spell. Ame puffs out his chest proudly, and Liriana affectionately calls him a cunning little dragon. Ame suddenly goes limp, fainting from exhaustion and falling into her arms. Tanya rushes onto the scene in a panic, calling out to Lady Liriana and asking what happened. Tanya checks on Liriana, announcing the Duke's imminent arrival. Ugh, a hooded man clutches his hand, vowing revenge. Liriana says she's fine, but Ame suddenly fell asleep. A mysterious hand presents a glowing magical item to them. The item transforms into a menacing blade of dark purple energy. Tanya worries how the Imperial Palace will view Liriana using magic. A vision of a younger, innocent Liriana flashes brightly. Tanya cries out Liriana's name in alarm. A green mana crystal pendant emits a powerful blue glow. Whoosh! A magical force erupts, pulling Liriana and Tanya off balance. A massive, intricate golden magic circle materializes in the sky. The attacker reels back, shocked that a child could be such a powerful wizard. Liriana's eyes widen as a triumphant voice announces, It opened! The narration confirms that Liriana's mana has been unlocked. The attacker realizes she lacks sufficient mana and begins to fight back. Crack! Liriana watches in horror as her mana crystal fractures. A brilliant beam of light strikes down the hooded attacker. Phew! The hooded man groans in defeat as he falls. The blonde duke catches the falling Liriana, asking if she is all right. Liriana feels dizzy, attributing it to her sudden mana awakening. Tanya tearfully apologizes while the duke orders her to be taken away. The scene transitions to a quiet, elegant parlor inside a mansion. The duke walks with purpose down a grand hallway. He looks thoughtfully at his surroundings, questioning if this is his mansion. Liriana awakens in bed, shocked to learn she was unconscious for 2 days. The duke inquires about her health before turning to another matter. He stands with arms crossed, a sword at his hip. A black-haired man with red eyes appears, ready to discuss her newfound mana.